With UFC legend Frankie Edgar coming towards the end of his long and storied career, it seems he has his eyes set on a new career path. He recently made his stand-up comedy debut, dropping some pretty decent jokes in the process, which fighters including one former opponent have since reacted to. Today, we are discussing Frankie Edgar's recent clip from his new stand-up comedy routine, plus fighter reactions. Stay with us. Let's jump straight in then. What's all this about? Well, as retirement looms for the former UFC lightweight champion, Frankie Edgar, it seems as though he has another completely different career path in mind, following in the steps of MMA personalities such as Joe Rogan and Brendan Schaub. The Toms River native has decided to take to the stage to launch his own stand-up comedy career. Sharing a clip from a recent gig to his Instagram account, Edgar risked the wrath of movie star Will Smith by dropping a joke about his wife. Of course, we know how that usually turns out, but we're certain Edgar can probably defend himself better than Chris Rock did. He said, "You know, I have more time in the octagon than anybody in the history of the UFC," which of course prompted applause from those in attendance. Before he went on to say, "I've been punched, kicked, and beaten down more times than Will Smith has been beaten by Jada, the Answer, as he is known, who has been with the top MMA promotion for more than 15 years. Then went on to drop an X-rated joke about former UFC fighter Paige Van Zandt, who has most recently turned out for Bare Knuckle FC. But it is far too rude for our delicate little ears. Thank you very much, Mr. Edgar." Having lost 4 of his last 5, it seems Edgar's MMA career could be drawing to a close shortly, but it seems as though he could just have found his next calling. What did you guys make of the routine? And what was the reaction from his fellow pros? Stay tuned to find out. Edgar took on BJ Penn 3 times during the earlier days of his UFC career, scoring 3 wins against the Hawaiian in the process. But it's safe to say Penn doesn't hold a grudge if his recent comments on Edgar's Instagram clip are anything to go by, congratulating the 40-year-old brawler on a job well done. Penn posted below the video, "This is great. Love it, Frankie." Another former UFC fighter was quick to congratulate Frankie on his new venture, with Josh Thomson also showing him some love. Thomson, who holds the distinction of being the only fighter to knock out Nate Diaz, we're not counting the Masvidal TKO stoppage in the BMF title fight, simply said, "You mother effer." Dear me, language. Plenty of other UFC fighters simply posted laughing emojis in support of the bantamweight legend, and a fan took it one step further by simultaneously giving Edgar props, but also taking aim at Brendan Schaub in the process, saying, "Way funnier than Brendan Schaub," though that is not saying much. I mean, at least Schaub has the nerve to get up in a room full of people to try out his material, something which we doubt that particular fan has ever done. If you want to check out Edgar's full performance, it can be found on UFC Fight Pass. What did you guys make of Penn and Thompson's comments on Edgar's performance? So what's next for the MMA legend? Edgar has suggested recently that he wants one more UFC fight before bowing out, and is targeting UFC 281 at Madison Square Garden this November. Given what he has done for the sport, bosses are sure to grant him his request, but nothing has been made official just yet. Frankie is targeting former bantamweight champion Dominick Cruz, both of whom have most recently been knocked out by Ecuador's world-class contender Marlon Chito Vera. And with both of these legends coming towards the end of their careers, this one could be the fight to make. We recently saw 2 other legends go head-to-head in a fight that had been billed as the loser more than likely retiring after Jim Miller submitted Donald Cowboy Cerrone, with Donald promptly retiring in the octagon after the fight. It's thought this one could go much the same way, but it's almost certain Edgar will retire whatever the outcome. Frankie is thought to want to fight close to home as a homecoming of sorts, and although Cruz is thought to be his preferred option, he will more than likely fight anyone the UFC asks him to. After dropping down to bantamweight back in 2020, it is thought any fight against Cruz would go down in that division, but Edgar has also fought at featherweight and lightweight in the past, so it won't necessarily be the case if a suitable opponent at 135 pounds can't be found. Who do you have if Edgar and Cruz dance? Frankie has admitted that when he does finally retire, there will be no coming back. Sadly, many fighters often end up retiring without having made enough money, and they return for one final payday, which more often than not does not go to plan. I mean, just look at Frankie's former opponent BJ Penn. However, the Answer has suggested that when he finally does call it a day, that will be that. Having been brutally knocked out by Vera last year, rumors were doing the rounds that Edgar could be set to retire, but it didn't play out that that way, thankfully for fans of the legendary brawler. Speaking on his podcast, Champ and the Tramp, shortly after his loss to the Ecuadorian, Edgar revealed that once he does finally call it a day, he won't be making any comebacks. Of course, no one's plans on making comebacks when they announce their retirement, so that could easily change. Edgar said, "Everybody's gonna bring up the bleep retirement and this and that, and I'm not gonna answer it because I don't know what it is, honestly. I just wanna know, when I do retire, I'm never coming back. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm not ready to make that decision yet." He then went on to say that whatever happens, he'll never stop training, and at that point, he just wasn't thinking about retirement. What do you guys make of the Vera KO? Pretty brutal, right? Next up, DC has had his say on a potential Edgar versus Cruz bout. Stay with us. Former UFC light heavyweight and heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier knows a thing or two about fighting. As a member of the UFC's Champ Club, DC is in a better position than most to be able to talk about which fights make sense and which don't, and he has recently been discussing the rumored fight between Frankie and Dominick at UFC 281 in November, claiming that Edgar shouldn't be fighting him at this stage in his career. Edgar has a pretty patchy record over his past 10 fights, only winning 4 of them, and DC has admitted to not being a huge fan of the matchup. He said, "I tap out on this fight. I believe that these guys are in different places in their careers. Dominick Cruz is fighting the 3 or 4 ranked guys in the world. The guy still wants to become a champion, while Frankie is talking about a retirement fight." Cormier, who himself fought until the age of 41, said that although Frankie has been great, he doesn't want to see him fight against Cruz, who is still fighting guys at the top of the division. However, Cruz has lost 3 of his last 5, but Cormier doubled down by saying, "I need him to fight someone else and hope that he can get a victory on his way out of the door." What do you guys make of DC's words? And finally, Big John McCarthy has weighed in on Edgar's potential retirement fight. Frankie holds the distinction of being one of only a handful of fighters to win a fight in 3 different divisions, Conor McGregor being another, and with the news that his next fight will more than likely be his last, former UFC referee Big John McCarthy has had his say on the legendary New Jersey fighter. Speaking on his Weighing In podcast with Josh Thomson recently, McCarthy believes the UFC should reward Edgar for 15 years of service by allowing him to choose his final matchup. He said that Edgar versus Cruz would be a fantastic fight to be in Madison Square Garden. Look, Frankie Edgar, I'm not saying the UFC owes him anything, they owe him. This guy had been there for them. Frankie Edgar should be able to write his own ticket on who he fights, where he fights, when he fights. He has been the man. He is the man. I'll miss him, but absolutely, he should be able to get that fight. Well, there you have it. And we would tend to agree with McCarthy's assessment, as Edgar has plenty of credit in the UFC bank. What do you guys think? As usual, thanks for stopping by today, and remember to tune in again next time when we'll be discussing more fun bits and pieces. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on more great content in the future. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.